Welcome back to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on the Sunrise, and I'm super excited to be here because I do have a lot of interesting things to be talking to you about. And welcome to the final hour of my show. Now, make sure you stay tuned because, like I said, I do have a lot of interesting things to be talking to you about. I do have a lot of information. I do have a lot of tips to help you with as well. So make sure you stay tuned because, like I said, I'm always here to solve your problems. I'm always here to help you solve your problems, and I'm always here to encourage, motivate you to do better, to keep going, and to never give up. Yeah, that's what I do. You're with me, Sarah, on the Sunrise, and like I said, it is the final hour of my show. But don't worry, because after my show, there's actually the social roundup by Sala, and she talks about all the social issues that you need to focus on and that you can actually help as well. So make sure you stay tuned because obviously, like I said, there is a lot of interesting there's a lot of interesting things that we're going to be talking about. Now, before I get into today's topic, before I get into what we're going to be talking about, I want to quickly remind you that you can in fact follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and that you can also follow us, or rather download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store as well. So make sure you do that because if you download our app, you can be a part of this conversation. You can join this conversation at any time of the day, in anywhere in the world, and that is definitely going to be so helpful because of all the stress that we're facing in the middle of the pandemic and how much we crave conversation. So make sure you do that, and make sure to text me on 078 because it's actually going to help you um share your thoughts, your opinions with me as well. And that is absolutely, that's something that I would absolutely love as well. So make sure you do that because I want to definitely know what's happening in your life. I want to know what's happening with you and what is going on in your life. Just share your thoughts with me so we can share with everyone who's listening in as well. And we can definitely, have a very interactive conversation, and we can have very interesting stories as well. So make sure you do that, okay? But let's get into this conversation of why exercising can actually help back pain. Right now, I'm not, when it comes to back pain, here's the thing, okay? You don't always have to be old to have back pain. Sometimes, you can be young and still have back pain. And that happens quite often as well. Now, apparently, it turns out that pandemics can be atrocious for our backs because by last October, more than a third of people in the United Kingdom had reported increased back pain, and that was according to one study. And this was actually way before an intense winter lockdown followed by a month long storm. So that just goes to show that a lot of us have in fact been suffering with back pain. A lot of us have in fact been struggling with it as well. And it is something that is a huge problem we have here in the United Kingdom. Now, obviously, we've been enrolling in these new different activities that we can try out, like online yoga or online workouts, or the fact that our yoga classes or the gyms that we used to go to, the workouts that we had are now in fact happens online. Things have changed a lot, right? So regardless of how it has changed, we've been doing online yoga without an instructor's watchful eye, and we've been lunging with Joe Wicks without warming up, but mostly we've been slouching over laptops feeling tensed or depressed. And I know I'm not the only one that has been feeling that way. I know you have been feeling that way too, because it's in the middle of a pandemic. Who wouldn't feel that way, right? So it's important to keep in mind that it's okay to feel like this for a while, but only for a while, okay? You can't always feel lazy, and you can't always be depressed and all of that, because it's not healthy for you, it's not helpful for you as well. So it's hard. It's definitely hard to wake up and make that choice, to make that difference. But what's important is that we wake up and we try, and we consistently keep trying without giving up, because the way to actually progress, the way to make progress, the way to develop is to make it consistent, never ever give up, right? And I know it's easier said than done. I myself have been there, but don't worry. We're in this together. We can do this together, and I will make sure we all get out of this pandemic much better than what we're feeling right now, okay? So getting back into this conversation now, while the onset of back, shoulder, or neck pain can feel like the last straw, the good news is that it probably isn't as bad as you think. So it's not likely to be serious. Now, this was actually said by Chris Mercer, who's an NHS consultant physiotherapist in Sussex, and he specializes in back pain. But there's always this theory sort of thing that was always around, where it said, it was not uncommon to keep an old door under the bed upon which to lie when your back went. Okay. But latest evidence actually indicates that being active is in fact essential for both avoidance and recovery, because you have to keep moving, you have to keep active, and things will eventually settle. Now, I feel like exercise is actually the answer to a lot of the problems we have, because we've seen, or we've read research, or we've actually experienced it as well. We have seen how exercise helps with depression, exercise helps with anxiety, exercise helps with productivity, exercise even helps with back pain now. So I feel like if we were more fit, if we kept fit, it would actually help us with a lot of the health problems that we have. But what the problem is right now is the fact that we can't really go out and run and be as fit as we used to be, because we're in lockdown. But that doesn't mean that you can't do a home workout, right? I mean, obviously, like I keep saying, it does not have to be an intensive workout, because you can't start with an intensive workout. You have to start small and then build it up gradually, right? So start with something small. Just make sure you keep exercising. Make sure you're fit and you're healthy, because if you're not fit and healthy, then it's going to result in a lot of health problems for you as well. So like I said, apparently the answer to back pain as well seems to be exercise. Now, keeping moving, or rather keep constantly moving, being active, and giving yourself exercise to do will actually help you to settle, will actually help all of this pain to settle as well. Now, obviously, something that we do is when it hurts to walk, bend, or even sit, it's sometimes very, very tempting to lie down until your spine sorts itself out. But moving, in fact, can be the key to getting better. Okay, and I know sometimes obviously it's very hard when you're in so much pain to keep moving. It's hard to keep going, right? And then, obviously when the pain is really intense, you have no choice but to sit down and sort of take a breather and wait for the pain to reduce a bit. And that's honestly the way you can go about it. But that doesn't mean that you have to constantly keep lying down and not move around, because what happens when you're lying down, when you're not moving around, is you're sort of telling your body that this is how it's going to be, that this is how things are going to be, and then your body eventually gets used to it, and then your body won't really change around. That body weight won't be shifted, and that pain won't be shifted either, because you're in one position. Okay, so it's very, very important to keep that in mind. It's important to keep that if it's important to keep in mind that if you have any sort of pain, if you have depression, anxiety, whatever it is, it can all be solved by being fit. You literally just need to wake up and make that decision to exercise a little bit, and it will definitely help you. Now, like I said, embracing activities when you're hurting can be scary, but for some people who have been in that process, for some people who are going through the process, that's not, it's not that scary. It's not that intimidating. Now, I will actually tell you a story as well, so it will help you understand and it will help you relate better as well. But the fact of the matter is, when you first start anything in general, it is hard, right? Anything, when you first start university, it's hard to get adjusted to it. When you first start a job, it's hard to get adjusted to it, and that's completely normal. I think that's just the way we're wired. It's hard to suddenly adapt to things. It's hard to suddenly change, and things like that don't happen overnight. You can't adapt things overnight. But the thing is, you need to make sure you're going to consistently keep going. You're going to consistently keep doing it, just to make sure that you can eventually adapt to it. Because the thing is we're human, right? And our bodies, our brains have been made in a way that are in fact easily adaptable, right? So all you need to do is just take the decision. You just need to tell yourself, look, I can do this, right? Come on, we got through 18 months of a pandemic, so we can definitely get through this as well. We just need to convince ourselves that we will get through this, and then we can we can get through it as well. Sometimes my motivation right now to do the things that I'm finding hard to do, so especially if I'm feeling very lazy and I don't feel like doing something, my motivation to doing it is, look, the pandemic's going to end in a few more months, and we're going to everything's going to get back to normal, and I can get back to my normal life, and that's a motivation that keeps me going. And I think, that can be your motivation too. Or if you don't want that to be your motivation, you can always motivate yourself with your goals, your passions, the people you love and care about. You can be doing it for them as well. So there are different ways in which you can motivate yourself, and you should try them as well, because it gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you I'd say it gives you enough reason to keep going. It gives you reason to not give up. And ultimately, when it comes to being human, that's what we want, right? We want to find purpose. We want to find that motivation to keep going. So if that's the kind of motivation you want, well, make sure you use some of those and motivate yourself to actually feel better, to keep going, to never ever give up. Because if you give up, you're definitely not going to solve the back pain that you have right now. Okay, so that's why you need to keep going. Now, going back to how sometimes embracing activity when you're hurting can in fact be intimidating, can be scary, let's talk about Jack Noonan, who's actually this 80-year-old retired English professor who lives in Philadelphia. And he has in fact learned the benefits of this firsthand. So he in fact actually had a very serious condition. It's called sciatica, which is basically intense pain, usually in the back of one leg. And this is caused by the compression or irritation of the sciatic nerve. But right now, he's as fit as a fiddle, and he's 80 years old, mind you, right? So if he can do it, then what's stopping us from doing it? So that should be your motivation. And he also believes that the exercise regime that he developed for himself not only cured his back pain, but it also helped him avoid surgery. So that's very, very important. Now, make sure you stay tuned, because we will, in fact, be getting into all of that. But all you need to do is just stay tuned until I'm back after this small break to talk to you about all of it.
Now, there's a lot of conversation around who pays more taxes, if it is the rich or if it is the poor, right? But when you are basically going out and during a day, you go to a restaurant, you have to pay taxes there. You buy a car, you have to pay taxes there. So why is it even a conversation that, the rich pay less taxes or the poor pay more taxes? Why is it a conversation like that?
Because it's true, the rich generally pay less tax. A rich person walks into a Tesco's or a Sainsbury's, they're not going to get a different bill than another person, right? They're still going to pay the same VAT on those goods, they're still going to pay the same thing. So that's all the same. However, the differences come in if you can pay yourself from your own company, you can structure it in a way that you pay less income tax through paying a bit of salary, paying dividends and so forth, and then also deferring income. Also, your pension payments or contributions can be different. So that increases your tax sort of gap, if you want to use it that way. Where a PAYE person just gets paid salary and bonus. And now those are the most highly taxed sources of income in the UK, definitely, in the UK. We've seen it, right? If an owner of a large public traded company does something wrong, irrelevant of what that company does or how valuable that company is, the stock generally falls into a pool of nothing, right? Because in a public company where the stock is traded openly on the stock exchange, the value of that stock is driven by supply and demand, it's driven by emotion, it's driven by news, it's driven by quite a lot of variables over and above the actual accounting or total net worth of that company. I mean, we've seen it, right? If an owner of a large public traded company does something wrong, irrelevant of what that company does or how valuable that company is, the stock generally falls into a pool of nothing, right? And the company may still have value and they still be doing quite a good things.
Welcome back to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio. And we're talking about back pain. We're talking about the different, how different people have gone through back pain and how to actually help yourself if you have back pain. Because look, at the end of the day, we've all been we've all been in that position. But obviously, it's not been as painful as it is for some people out there. So obviously, it's important that we talk about back pain, and that's what we were talking about earlier as well. If you're just tuning in, a very good morning. Welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you here, and I'm super excited to be having this conversation and sharing my thoughts and also your thoughts as well. So make sure you stay tuned and make sure to share your thoughts on 07852473473. Make sure you share your not only your thoughts but also your opinions, your questions, your experiences. If you have been in this situation, if you know ways in which you can alleviate your pain, if you know ways in which you can help everyone who's listening in, make sure to do that because that will be absolutely amazing. Okay, so make sure to do that, but also make sure to download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, so you can listen in from either your iOS device or your Android device, and you can be a part of the show. And don't forget to follow our socials because that's definitely going to keep you informed and updated about everything that's happening all over the world. So make sure you do that. Go follow us on on our social media, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. So make sure you do that. But right now, let's actually get back into the conversation. We'll get back into the conversation about dealing with back pain and how exactly to deal with it. Now earlier I was just talking about Jack Noonan, who's actually this 80-year-old retired English professor who had sciatica and how he's now fit as a fiddle, and he's 80 years old, mind you. So we will be talking about him, and we'll be talking about other conditions as well. So let's get into it. Now Mercer's good news actually continues, because it doesn't matter what type of exercise you do. As long as you like what you're doing and you're sensible, there's in fact loads of evidence that exercise is good for back pain. And what he's saying is that as long as you exercise, as long as you keep going, it will actually help you with your back pain. But what he's saying is that none of the research actually points out to one form of exercise being better than another. So that means, you actually have a lot of advantage, because if you do a few simple exercises, then that is definitely going to help you, right? And sometimes, like, we can be very fussy about the kind of exercises we want to do. For example, I hate working out, but I would prefer something like yoga so much more than doing very intensive workouts, because it's just hard for me, right? But different people prefer different types of exercises, and that's why it's good that exercising just helps back pain in general. So the advice actually is to do something you enjoy, because you'll keep doing it. Right now, for me, that would essentially be something like yoga or even Zumba or aerobics. But for someone else, that could be something like surfing or a bike ride or hiking. For someone else, it could be something like that. Now, the evidence just says that it says you're better to move and do stuff than not. Okay, so it's much much better for you if you're just going to keep moving and doing stuff, because that's going to help you stay much much more fit, and it's also going to help all of your back pain as well. So make sure you do that, because that's definitely going to help you. Now, what we need to understand and what we need to keep in mind is, when it comes to exercising for back pain, it's actually a lot simpler than a lot of people think. Because I think you need these expensive treatments to get rid of back pain. You need to do surgeries and whatnot. But actually, the answer to all of those problems is just making sure you get enough exercise. Now, there's an entire industry that has sprung up around the notion of special exercises for individual conditions. And this is what Mercer says as well. And the evidence doesn't actually stack up behind them. There is absolutely no need for different individuals to have different types of exercises because of the different conditions they have. If we all just, have one certain type of exercise, or we all just use, different, we use different exercises, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. However, the reason we think that there is something wrong with it, the reason we think that we might need to have different exercises for individuals with different conditions, is because that's what these industries keep telling us. When you're seeing all these sports ads, or when you're seeing gym equipment or even training equipment in general, they say it's for specific people. So in our head, we start having this image, or we start having this thought process where we think that just because you have a different condition or you're different, that you need different types of exercises and you need different types of equipment, which is not true at all. Right. So that's just how it works. That's just how the industry works. We keep thinking, maybe we'll have to change things. Maybe we'll have to, do something different to be healthy. But that's really not the case. Now, there has, for example, been great emphasis on improving core strength to actually to support good posture. But, even this can be a red herring. Sometimes it actually causes people to focus on tightening their abdominals, so everything's really tight instead of just moving normally, right? And I've heard this a lot as well, like, oh, do core exercises, that's definitely going to help you and whatnot. But the thing is, when you're doing these exercises, you need to make sure first of all, you need to make sure that you're doing it right. There are so many instances when we can do the most simple exercises in the wrong way. And what happens when we do the exercise in a wrong way is that it actually affects us, because sometimes it can lead to a multitude of other problems, right? So that's why it's important for you to focus on the way you're doing the exercise. And you need to make sure whatever exercise that you're doing, you're not doing way too much of it, so that, for example, like I just said, instead of actually strengthening your core, you're just tightening your core and it's not moving normally. So make sure to keep those things in mind when you are doing things like that. And something else he said is that when you sort of endorse and promote these kind of ideologies, what you're doing is you're actually teaching people unhelpful ways of moving, which, like I said, it's unhelpful, it's unhealthy as well, and it's not going to always mean that it will make them feel better in the long run. It can actually cause discomfort. It can make things harder for them. So just because they do a certain type of exercise too much, and even if they're doing it wrong, that doesn't mean that will actually alleviate any of the pain and make the situation better. And to put it in perspective, um, actually, so to put it in perspective, think of a back pain like a sprain think of the back pain like a sprained ankle, right? Now, the tissues in your back, that can cause irritation with the discs and nerves and joints, are actually like tissues in the rest of the body, and they react in the same way. So a sprained ankle might be a bit sore to walk on, but you can hobble around a little while it gets better, right? And obviously it happens slowly, but even though your ankle is sprained and it hurts to walk, you still hobble around a little bit to do whatever it is that you have to do. So the message essentially is to not freak out. Don't start freaking out and thinking, oh my gosh, like things are going to get so bad for me. I am not going to be able to move. I'm not going to be able to go back to normal and do things the normal way, because that's not true at all. Okay. All you need to do is just calm down. You just need to calm down, and um, you need to take a breather and tell yourself, look, I can do this. I'm going to do a few simple exercises that will help me with my back pain. And I will eventually get better, but obviously it's going to take time. But that means that you have to be consistent, that you will never give up, and that you will keep going, right? And there's nothing wrong with the fact that sometimes you feel like you don't want to do it, or you're scared, and that's fine. It's completely fine to feel scared. It's completely fine to be intimidated. But what's important is that you face your fears. Okay. Now, like earlier I was saying, you have to let go of what you can't control. But when it comes to things you can control, when it comes to changes that you can make sure to make it, because it's definitely going to help you. instead of trying to control things that you can't control, make sure to control things that you can control, right? Because like I said, it's definitely going to help you. And things like back pain, things like depression, anxiety, those things will, you can help yourself get better, and all you need to do is just exercise. So really, it's not some expensive medicine that you have to order that's going to cost you a fortune, or that you have to sell your house to get medicine for it. It's not a situation like that. It's very easy. It's very convenient as well, because if you take those steps, you're in fact saving yourself from a lot of pain, a lot of trouble that you will have to go through in the future, right? So do what's best for yourself, because at the end of the day, nobody wants to suffer. None of us wants to suffer, right? And the best way to make sure you actually don't suffer is to take that step, to make sure that you take that step and you don't do things that are unhealthy for you. So take that step, take the chance, and it's completely fine if it's hard at the beginning, but you just need to make sure you keep going. Okay, so like I said, if you have a sore ankle, then walk around, hobble around, don't walk, but just hobble around a little bit until it gets better. And if it hurts way too much, if it's really intense and you feel like you can't move, and you can't carry out your normal tasks and your activities, the NHS actually recommends taking over the counter painkillers and remaining active within the limits of your pain. Okay, so what that means is, if you're in intense pain, you can't move, you can't do the work you normally do, well, don't worry. Just there are some over-the-counter painkillers that you can take. Well, that's what the NHS recommends. They just want you to take some over-the-counter painkillers and try to move as much as you can, but within the limits of your pain. Obviously, if you can't even get off the bed because you're in so much pain, then really don't do anything about it. But if you can do something about it, if you can get off your bed, if you can walk around a bit, do that. But make sure it doesn't make the situation worse for you. Just make sure you do it in a way that is helpful for you. Now, if pottering around and changing sitting positions regularly is all that is possible to do for a while, then at least do that, okay? Because what can happen if people have had a severe episode of pain is that they stop walking, they stop gardening, or they stop going for a bike ride, and they stop doing all the things that they like to do. And they become less and less active and more disabled by their worries. And that's why it's so much more dangerous and unhealthy and harmful if you don't actually exercise. So make sure you do that, because right now we're actually going to head into a small break. But don't worry, because right after that I will be back to tell you about the different things that you can do and the different stories of different people as well. So make sure you stay tuned.
One of the easiest ways to increase your net worth is to ensure that you have higher cash flows. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to not buy things on hire purchase, not buy things over months and months because you can't afford them now but you want it. It's kind of that delayed gratification. Rather than buy that couch, that car, that stereo, that computer, whatever item, and pay it off over 12, 24, 36 months at an interest rate, rather invest that money, make do with what you've got, and then after 12, 24, 36 months, take the money that you've now invested and buy that good. An asset could be anything that appreciates or reduces a tax bill. So it could still be a liability, but it reduces their tax bill. And I'm not going to go into the technicalities because that's out of our remit here. However, for our use or our purpose, what we are talking for the listeners here is, I would put this definition of an asset forward. An asset is anything that increases your income. Anything.
Now, there's a lot of conversation around who pays more taxes, if it is the rich or if it is the poor, right? When you are basically going out and during a day, if you go to a restaurant, you have to pay taxes there. If you buy a car, you have to pay taxes there. So why is it even a conversation that, the rich pay less taxes or the poor pay more taxes? Why is it a conversation like that?
Because it's true that the rich generally pay less tax. A rich person walks into a Tesco's or a Sainsbury's, they're not going to get a different bill than another person, right? They're still going to pay the same VAT on those goods. They're still going to pay the same thing. So that's all the same. However, the differences come in if you can pay yourself from your own company, you can structure it in a way that you pay less income tax through paying a bit of salary, paying dividends, and so forth, and then also deferring income. Also, your pension payments or contributions can be different. So that increases your tax sort of gap, if that, if you want to use it that way. Where a PAYE person just gets paid salary and bonus. And now those are the most highly taxed sources of income in the UK, definitely, in the UK.
Welcome back to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio, and it is a final few minutes of my show. But don't worry, because we're having a really interesting conversation about, we're having a very, very interesting conversation about back pain and what you can actually do to reduce back pain. So make sure you're tuned. But before we get into that conversation, I want to quickly remind you that you can be a part of the show. All you need to do is just text me on 07852473473, and I would love to hear your thoughts, your opinions, your perspectives on whatever it is that we're talking right now, so I can share with everyone who is listening in. And make sure to follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And that way, you can actually make sure that you are a part of Relax Radio, that you're always informed and you're updated about everything that is going on. But right now, let's actually get back into this conversation. Now, Victoria Zodzu Brown, who's actually the Joint Honorary Secretary of the Royal College of General Practitioners, agrees that exercise, perhaps intuitively, is the best treatment. So things like walking, swimming, or even safe stretching exercises. Now, back pain episodes can in fact be disabling and worrying, but they're common and usually people recover reasonably quickly. If, however, the pain persists or it's severe, patients are actually advised to discuss their symptoms with their general physician. Now, when it comes to more serious conditions such as a slip disc or a sciatica, usually these usually cause extra symptoms such as numbness or weakness or even a tingling sensation, and these things actually need to be investigated by your doctor. If you're also developing a clear weakness in your legs, you should also seek advice. And this Danny Mercer actually said, Dave Mercer rather actually said all of this as well. Now, very rarely, he also says that very rarely the nerves in the spine that connect to the bladder, the bowels, and the sexual organs can provide sensation around the genitals, and provide sensation around the genitals and back passage can actually be compressed. So if that's the case, you need to seek immediate advice, because it can be very harmful if it is not diagnosed at that point. So you need to definitely, if you're feeling any of these symptoms, if you feel like you're having any of these, if you feel any pain in all these areas, regions that I just mentioned, make sure you consult a doctor. Make sure you get help as soon as possible, because it can in fact lead to a situation that can be much, much more worrying, and that can be much, much more dangerous if you don't get help. Right. So going back to our conversation, exercise is actually more about physical fitness, and back pain is actually heavily linked to depression and mental health problems. And exercise is, of course, brilliant for helping to maintain mental health. This was what I was telling you earlier as well. If we were all just much more fit than we are right now, if we actually, did all of these exercises that we're supposed to be doing, we would actually be much, much more healthy, and we would be able to maintain all of our illnesses. We would feel less ill if we took if we just exercised. So we were talking about Noonan as well, and Noonan's exercises have in fact improved his strength and balance, and they've also boosted his confidence. And he said that he thinks he's become more open to the world around him, and that he's certainly become more open about how his body works. Now, when it comes to certain exercises, different types of exercises that you can actually use, yoga has been long associated with improved mental health as well as improving back pain symptoms, right? Now, when it comes to yoga, relaxation is in fact integral and is perhaps a key element of back care that is often overlooked. You need to make sure it is relaxed and you're relaxed as well, because all these layers of stress and tension actually builds up. And this was actually said by Travella, who is a yoga instructor. And the modified version of the savasana or the corpse pose, which ends all yoga classes. That's how yoga classes ends. She says that it in fact works like magic to take off the top layers of pain, discomfort, and stress. Okay, so all you have to do is just lie down on your back with your calves up on a chair seat and your head and neck supported on a folded towel or blanket for about 10 minutes. And that's actually going to help a lot with the pain and the discomfort and the stress. And it's also estimated that about 80% of adults in the UK will actually experience back pain at some point, but almost everyone can actually do something about it, right? Going, telling you or reminding you about the story about Noon, and you can actually see how his sciatica disappeared a few years ago. He said now once in a while sometimes he winces because sometimes he gets the pain, but it's nothing that actually debilitates him because he has gotten rid of the pain. He's much more fit and he is in a much much better place than he was right now. I mean, than he was at that point of time. So right now he's in a much better place, and he is in fact much more fitter, and he is in fact in a great physical condition. So if you feel any back pain, if you feel any pain in your back, and also if you have depression, anxiety, stress, whatever it is, all of that can actually be solved by exercise. And it's literally as easy as that. That's all you have to do, just exercise and you'll be completely fine. Okay, now like I said, remember that some of these things are in your control. You can change it. You just need to make the decision. You need to come to the conclusion that I can do this. I will take the decision and I will change what I will do whatever it is that I have to make that change. So make sure you do that. But it's time for me to actually head out of here and make way for Salah. We'll be here on the social roundup to talk to you about all the social issues that are there. So make sure you stay tuned, because obviously she has a lot to tell you, and it's also very interesting and things that you should be aware about as well. And until then, make sure you have a very, very good day. But I'm going to head out of here now, and I hope you have a very good day.